This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Today's video is brought to you by ZBiotics. Let's talk again, it seems to never stop, about Herschel Walker. We've talked for months and months, as long as he's been a candidate, that he is unqualified to run for Senate. Unqualified to be a candidate for the United States Senate in Georgia. And we said it more colloquially or generally as a pejorative, not based on his electoral qualifications as a citizen or of the right age or whatever. We talked about it kind of tongue in cheek. He's not qualified. He's not qualified. But now, because of reporting from the Daily Beast, we're finding out that he literally isn't qualified to be a United States Senator for the state of Georgia. For all of the whining and the hand-wringing from Republicans about voter fraud and election fraud and fraudulence in elections, the Republican Party sure is good at committing those very acts. Again, projection is the order of the day with Republicans. I'm going to read a little bit from this Daily Beast article, but let me tell you, it never ceases to amaze me the lack of shame or dignity possessed by Republicans. Any other person in your life would be embarrassed into solitude, would be hiding under their desk for fear of social retribution. If they lied this much, if they pointed the finger at people for a crime or an offense that they suspected when they themselves were guilty of that same thing. Normal people don't operate like Herschel Walker or Donald Trump or Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham. Normal people have some modicum of shame. Not these people. We're going to get to this before we do a word from today's sponsor, ZBiotic. While I often look like a suit on camera, this guy loves a good time. You probably figure that out though. With the holidays approaching, I expect some later nights than usual as I look to count the blessings of this year and what it has brought. I'm no longer a spring chicken, which you can also probably tell, and having a few can cause real trouble the next day. My solution, ZBiotics. ZBiotics breaks down the alcohol byproducts responsible for rough mornings after drinking. If you too enjoy drinks and friends, but have a busy day on the horizon, ZBiotics is perfect for you. Just one ZBiotics before you start drinking is all you need to have an enjoyable night or day and still be productive tomorrow. Get 15% off of your first order of ZBiotics pre-alcoholic probiotic when you go to zbiotics.com/Dollemore or simply click the link in the description below and use code Dollemore at checkout. Engineered by PhD scientists, ZBiotics is real science that works. Every time I have ZBiotics before drinking, I am shocked at how good I feel the next day. It's now my go-to, as I know I can easily get up and get working in the studio, even if I went out the night before and stayed out a little late. You too can feel this good the next day. Give yourself or your friends the gift of a better tomorrow with ZBiotics. Support this channel and score 15% off of your first order when you go to zbiotics.com/Dollemore or simply click the link in the description below and use the code Dollemore at checkout. Remember to drink responsibly and keep it classy this holiday season. Let's talk about this headline, and I'll read a few paragraphs from it here. Daily Beast. Herschel Walker only recently stopped renting out Georgia home he claims as his residence. Records show the Senate hopeful, who's facing fresh questions about his Georgia residency, rented out his Atlanta home just before launching his campaign. Remember Lynn Wood, the election denier goofball, Trump, subservient Trump cultist, who claimed that he lived in Georgia but actually lived in South Carolina and voted in the Georgia election? Same thing here. Same exact thing, except in this case, Herschel Walker is a Texan. Herschel Walker is walking in the steps of Dr. Oz, Mehmet Oz, the failed Senate candidate in Pennsylvania, being from one state and running for office, high office, in another. Let's read from this article. When he launched his campaign for U.S. Senate in Georgia, Herschel Walker claimed his deep roots in the state didn't end with his days as a football legend at the University of Georgia. It was widely known at the time that the Republican hopeful had been living in Texas for decades, though he has claimed to maintain a residence in Atlanta for 17 years. Less widely known, however, was that Walker's wife collected tens of thousands of dollars in rental income for that residence, according to his 2021 financial disclosure forms. This would be like me, a resident of the District of Columbia, living in Washington, D.C., if I decided to run for office in Idaho. Well, I'm from Idaho. I lived in Idaho for decades. I was raised there. I have deep roots in Idaho. But the problem with that is I'm no longer a resident of the state. There is little daylight between what Mehmet Oz did and this, except this might be even more egregious because of the fact that he's either lying to Texas or he's lying to Georgia. Where's the Republican misgiving over this? Where are the pearl clutchers about election integrity? Crickets. That's where they are. The House doubled as Walker's campaign's first official address when he launched his bid in August 2021. Fulton County tax and property records show the home is solely owned by Walker's wife, Julie Blanchard, who also collected rental income from 2020 and 2021, ranging from $15,000 to $50,000, according to the disclosure, defining the asset as Georgia residence. Blanchard's company also received a previously unreported $49,997 in COVID relief loans over the same period. These same people who malign people who want to get out from underneath unwarranted, immoral student loan debt are taking $50,000 in COVID relief loans at Walker's Texas address, according to federal data. On one since revised financial disclosure, Walker claimed the company had generated rental income for Blanchard, suggesting the company had an operational stake in the Atlanta property. A Walker spokesperson, of course, a Walker spokesperson did not reply to the Daily Beast's request for comment. And then last paragraph here, the rental income, which was earned between 2020 and 2021, suggests the Walkers had not only not been living in Georgia before his campaign, but hadn't used the home for anything but a passive cash stream. That further complicates the variegated story that Walker, a Georgia native and former Dallas Cowboy who has lived in Texas since stepping away from the NFL in the 90s, has told about his relationship to the state he is now vying to represent in Washington. So apparently the Republican Party, the GOP, is so bereft of political talent. Their bench, if we're going to go with the sports metaphor here, their bench is so lacking in depth that this is their guy. There's no qualified Georgian to run for office as a Republican, so they had to reach into Texas, and this is all they could come up with. Herschel Walker. And it's a tight race. And it's close enough to go to runoff because nobody reached 50% of the vote. If you are in Georgia, Republican or obviously Democrat. But if you're a Republican in Georgia, this has to bother you. This has to bother you that they're shipping in someone from out of state to represent you and your interests because he carried a football for the University of Georgia. Apparently, he's the pinnacle of what is available to represent you in the United States Senate, rather than the thoughtful and empathetic and wildly qualified Raphael Warnock. You gotta make the right choice here, Georgia. What do you think about this? Let's talk about it in the comments. Let's mix it up there. As I say, we can disagree agreeably if indeed we disagree. If you appreciate what I do, I would love for you to click the join button, see what's involved to become a channel member, helping support this channel, helping take part in producing what I do right here. You can click the join button, become a channel member, or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I would also love to hear from you via voicemail or email. You can call 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email daily@dollemore.com. And follow me on social media, Twitter, as long as it's lasting, @Dollemore, Instagram, @Dollemore, and of course, TikTok for as long as I'm not banned, @Dollemore. I love you guys. I appreciate you very much. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.